Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Duck Zone. This is the NBA Trade Deadline 2024-25 show, and this was an explosive trade deadline, to say the least. Over 50 guys going to different teams. That doesn't include draft picks. 27 of the 30 teams were active during this past week. Before we get into everything, James, how have you recovered from this? This was a true for me reshuffling of the deck for the NBA.
Yeah, my recovery was the fact that there really was no big moves on the actual day of the deadline. So all the big trades happened yesterday, and obviously we heard about the Luca news late Saturday night, which kind of opened up the floodgates. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack, but luckily there wasn't much big news that happened on the actual Thursday trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot. It felt like throughout the week, it felt like a big trade was happening every single day. And then this, obviously, today, there was a lot of trades, but nothing that was groundbreaking. We'll talk really quickly about the guys that didn't move. There was a lot of noise about Kevin Durant. That obviously never happened. There was a couple other big names that were being kind of thrown around there a little bit. I know we're both big Phoenix fans, and we'll get into the moves that they made. But the big news that came out today is they're really going to evaluate what happens the rest of the season, and it's going to apparently make big moves this off season.
Yeah, the Durant potential trade to Golden State, I feel like I started to accept it. I was like, okay, like if the Suns are gonna get back like Kaminga, Jimmy Butler, and multiple first round picks, if this is gonna be a three team trade with the Heat in Golden State, great. Jimmy's a year younger than Durant. Yeah, he's not as good offensively, but he's a better defender, and it's like we're basically just getting a ton of assets. I really like Jonathan Kaminga. And then from what I saw on Twitter, Kevin Durant came out and said, I would rather retire than go back to Golden State. So he doesn't have a no trade clause, but at his stage and his level in the NBA, he's very well respected. So I'm sure management was kind of like, okay, Kevin, like we'll commit to you. And then obviously the last thing I'll say is, a lot of chatter was on the Suns, and rightfully so, with Bradley Beal, but, he is one of only two players, I believe, in the NBA with a no trade clause. He might be the only one now. I want to say there's another one. Anyways, he basically came out and was like, I'm staying in Phoenix, I'm not going anywhere. So that obviously led to, a Jimmy Butler trade to Phoenix not really happening. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Like you said, we'll talk about Phoenix. They did make a trade today, but they didn't really do much. So they're kind of just doubling down on what they did this past off season, or 2 seasons ago, I guess, with trading for Beal and just kind of running with it.
Yeah. All right, well, that said, let's jump back to Saturday night. The trade that basically not only shook the basketball world, but the sports world completely. And we'll just get right to it. The two headliners in the trade: Luka Doncic going to the Lakers, Anthony Davis going to the Mavs. We've heard all of the other things, the draft picks, how the Jazz got involved. Craziness. It's been 5 days, James. Have you been able to unpack this yet? The big two in this trade still haven't played yet, both dealing with injuries, but looks like they're going to be playing here this weekend or next week. I mean, what's your feeling now, 5 days after this? How is this going to fit? Who won? I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't believe it when I got the notification on my phone and started checking Twitter. People were saying Shams Charania got hacked. It was just kind of like, in today's sports world, I feel like it's been trending towards players have the power. This basically just shifted everything back to like, no, you're a player. Like, we're the management,
Yeah.
we're the GMs, we're the owners. we're gonna tell you where, like, who we want, where you're going, what's going on. I mean, Luca seemed untouchable. He seemed like someone who was gonna be in Dallas forever. He was up for a super max. And if the rumors and everything that they're saying is true about LeBron not knowing and Luca not even knowing, and Luca texting Mark Cuban late night like, what's going on, and Mark Cuban saying, "Yeah, I'm not quite sure." Yeah, it was a very strange deal. I mean, hell of a trade for the Lakers. If I'm the Lakers and whatever that GM's name for Dallas is calls me up and like is floating Luca out there for AD, I'm 100% being like, yeah, how can we get this to move forward? So the only thing I can think is like, the Mavs came out and said we want a defensive minded center, and they weren't happy with Luca's weight. I don't know. I don't know what to believe. There's so much stuff you read on Twitter. Luca's weight's never been an issue before. I mean, he's a big dude. He's thick. I mean, I wouldn't say he's out of shape, but like, he dominates when he plays. It's not like his numbers are going down because he's like, oh, he's put on 10 pounds and he's not as good as he was. Like, he's still really, really good. So, I mean, I'll touch on a little more. I'll kick it over to you just, for your reaction.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I mean, a lot has already been said about the trade. Just a couple of things that really stand out. The GM for the Mavs, basically the Mavs have to not only get to the finals this year, I think they have to win it for him to save his job. That's how ridiculous
Oh,
this trade
100%.
is. It's insane. Do I actually think the Mavs potentially got better with the trade? As crazy as it says right now for this season, yeah, I think they might have gotten better for this one season alone. For the future, for 10 years down the line, I mean, this might go down as one of the stupidest trades in NBA history. If Luka turns out to be the guy we've seen the first 5, 6 years of his career, if he continues to sail, this could go down as one of the dumbest trades ever. Um, the one thing that's going to be very interesting to see, and it's been mentioned quite a bit, and it was one of the first things I thought about, is, well, two things. Actually, it's one thing. It's all in one. This Laker roster for this season, just this season, now looks kind of all wonky. And we're going to kind of talk about the Mark Williams trade in a bit here. But you got two guys with LeBron and Luca that play very similar ball. They don't have a lot of shooters on the team right now, and this defense is going to be awful. Anthony Davis was having a very, very good defensive season for a bad Laker defense. So I don't know how they're going to defend anybody going forward for this season. But the other thing that's going to be really interesting, this is technically the first time potentially in LeBron James's life, not like pros, like literally life, where LeBron James may all of a sudden, depending on how long these two play together, may turn into a Robin, which is very weird to say. Um, this is now Luka's team. LeBron James is now 40 years old, still very, very good, but this is the first guy that you can arguably say, while standing on the same court together, he may not be the best player on the team, which is wild. Um, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this team does. I think there is a chance this team could win an NBA Finals. I can also see this team getting knocked out in the first round just because, and I think this Laker team, though, this is a long-term approach. We got Wemby in the West for the next, if he never leaves San Antonio, 15 to 20 years. We got to compete with that. We got to build and get young. And Luka's going to be the guy that's probably going to be a Laker for the next 15 years. And it's going to be solidifying, yeah, you're going through LA here. A plus for the Lakers, F minus for the Mavs and the Jazz just getting freebies on picking up a phone call. Yeah, it's an A as well.
Yeah, you could just do a continual plus, A plus 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 for the Lakers. I mean, I thought not only do they have a star to pair with LeBron right now, but they have their star of the future because, people forget. Well, I don't know if people forget, but I forgot that Luke is only 25 years old, even though he feels like he's been in the league for like he's a 10-year veteran. Um, from a marketing standpoint too, I mean I think he's going to fit in really well in La La Land. From a marketing standpoint for the Mavs, I saw that you know tons of people are refunding their season
Yeah.
tickets. Not that Instagram is the end all be all, but I think that I saw something like 700,000 people, or maybe not 700, maybe it was 70,000 people unfollowed the Mavericks. Like they have some work to do to regain the trust of their fans. I know you talked about the Mavs for this year getting better, and honestly, if Anthony Davis brings them a championship, then to me it's kind of like the Stafford trade. Like
Yeah.
obviously Jared Goff isn't Luca, but it's like you're bringing in a guy and then he won it for you. Like obviously, if you can get a championship out of this, then they semi won this trade.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all I got to say. It was crazy. I still can't believe it, and I don't think we really will believe it until we see Luca step on the court, which it sounds like maybe Saturday. I'm hearing so.
Yeah. I'm hearing Saturday, or it's
Should be
gonna be
fun.
it's
Him
gonna
and
be one of
LeBron.
these.
I mean,
Yeah, it's gonna be one of these next few games. It's gonna be very interesting to see. So, but that was just the start of it. That was just the start of it, and that was probably the craziest. That's the craziest thing we're probably gonna see in a long, long time. I feel sports trade wise, it's still kind of hard to understand. And exactly what you said, we'll believe it when we see it. The very next day, we had another blockbuster trade involving the Spurs, Kings, and Bulls. Kind of the big highlights out of that one: De'Aaron Fox goes to San Antonio. Wimby gets another star to play with, which is fantastic for him. The Kings get Zach LaVine and a slew of draft picks. Three firsts, 3 seconds. A few of those were involved in another trade, which we'll talk about later. And then the Bulls get Zach Collins, Kevin Herter, first rounder, another player. What was your reaction to this deal?
I had heard this. This had been a rumor for a little while. It seemed a little strange to me because the Kings aren't a good team. They're not playing well, but they have like two superstars in De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis. But for some reason, it's just not working. I haven't watched enough of them recently to really understand why it's not working, but it's not working. So, and I don't even think Fox really asked to leave. I don't know why the Kings were so gung ho on moving Fox, but whatever. The Spurs by far won this trade. Fox gets to, we saw him paired with Chris Paul last night to start the game. Just another young guard who can learn from Chris Paul. I mean, Fox is already established. He's really, really good. But then gets to learn a little more from Chris Paul. So, and then you get Fox and Wemby pairing up for the next however many years. I thought that was a great move. The Kings, I gave the Kings a D plus. Sure, they got a bunch of picks, but like we've seen Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan together, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, we just saw this 3 months ago. Like DeRozan just joined the Kings this year. It wasn't working in Chicago, and it's not going to work in Sacramento. So, yeah, I don't get it on the Kings side. I don't understand why you wanted LaVine and why you traded Fox. And the Bulls I gave a C. Bunch of middling, decent rotation players. Zach Collins is solid. Kevin Huerter is solid. Trey Jones is fine, but nothing that really moves the needle for the Bulls. And honestly, the Bulls, I thought they did a really bad trade deadline day. I mean, they didn't even move Vucevic.
Yeah.
Patrick Williams was on the table from all the rumors I was reading. I don't know what that franchise is doing, but yeah, the Spurs to me totally won this trade.
Yeah, I agree with you on a lot of what you just said. Fox, best player in this deal. Spurs were looking for another superstar to put next to Wemby. They got it. They've got control of Fox now for not only this year, but the following year as well. So they've got a year and a half to convince him to sign longer if it's working out between the two of them. The Kings are just, it looks like they're just trying to rebuild through the draft and, make trades and stuff like that. But you're right on with the Levine DeRozan thing. We've seen it before. It didn't really work in the East Coast. It's not going to work in the West Coast. And I think Chicago is just trying to survive. That first round pick this year from the Spurs could be okay. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I knew they were talking about trading Lonzo Ball, and then they doubled down on Lonzo Ball last night, and they gave him a new contract. So, just kind of odd things going on in Chicago that don't make a whole lot of sense from the outside. But I like what Fox brings to the Spurs, and I'm rooting for Wemby to become a superstar. Well, he kind of already is, but really box office viewing. So.
Well, in Fox, he had a pretty good game last night. He showed out for San Antonio. Wemby made a free throw to go up by one, and then purposely missed the free throw, and the Spurs got the win by one. But for a player to come in a trade and play in his first game after like 2 days, I thought Fox played really well.
Yeah. All right. Well,
And
we're
he's
gonna
only going to
bridge.
get better.
Yeah, that's true. We're gonna bridge that trade with a trade that's actually pretty connected with it, because right off of that, the Kings then made another trade with the Wizards. They used the player Sid Ciesco. I hope I'm saying that right. And then two second round picks, one of which they received in the trade, the three-team trade before, and they sent those to Washington. Washington, in response, sent them Jonas Valanciunas, which is not a bad deal if you throw that wrinkle into the Kings situation. Really not having to add anything to the original trade, the three-teamer the day before. Adding Valanciunas, new big man down low for them to pair with Sabonis.
Yeah, I thought that was actually a solid move. I don't know anything about City Sissoko or however you pronounce his name, but Valanciunas, fun fact, plays. Uh, doesn't I mean he does play. He's Lithuanian, and Sabonis is also Lithuanian, so they both play on the Lithuania team together. So whether they play together or not, I maybe they'll see the court a little together because Sabonis can play the power forward. He's kind of that Anthony Davis type. Like he's a center, but likes to play power forward. And he can actually stretch the floor. I know Davis, his big thing is he really wanted a center to come to the Lakers, and then he gets his ass traded to Dallas. But yeah, Valanciunas, he's a veteran big man. You kind of know what you're going to get from him. Probably a double double. I mean, he's like the 10 points, 10 rebounds type of guy, but he's a guy where say Sabonis needs to come out and rest for a little bit, you can throw Valanciunas in there, and he's a bit of an upgrade over Alex Len, who I believe they had been playing as the backup center. So I thought this trade was I gave it a B plus for the Kings, and then honestly for the Wizards I gave it an A. Not for Sissoko, but just getting stockpiling more picks.
Yeah, I thought it was a good trade both ends. I mean, I'm not saying that the Kings are going to make the playoffs. They may be in the play-in series, and if they get there, it's going to be an interesting team to play. It's a big team at this point because you would think Valanciunas will probably be the starting center. Sabonis plays power forward, and then you're going to have DeMar DeRozan and now Zach LaVine probably playing the 2 and 3, trying to figure out who would play the point guard at this point. Um, but they have some veteran guys on this team, and they'll be a tricky out if you have to play them in a one-game playoff. I'm not saying they're going to do much more than that, but eh, it's good building blocks, I guess. They're a little older, a little bit more veteran, but at the exact same time, they did pick up a slew of draft picks to go with it. So, and they made a pretty good deal off of the trade the day before. Next trade happened
So the
not.
Kings, I'm going to interrupt you real fast.
Yeah.
So the Kings have Malik Monk at point guard. This is ESPN depth chart. They have Monk, Levine, DeRozan. They have Keegan Murray right now at the power forward and Sabonis starting at center.
Okay.
Maybe they turn Murray into that kind of sixth man role. I don't know. I mean, their bench looks kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't mind, like you mentioned, Sabonis at the power forward and Valanciunas at center, because at least Keegan Murray can be kind of a spark plug. He can score off the bench. Or they keep Murray at the power forward, Sabonis at center, and Valanciunas
Yeah.
as the backup center, but we'll see.
Overall, not a bad trade deadline for the Kings when it all came down to it. Just wasn't the massive splash, and it hurts when you lose almost your star in Fox. Next trade that happened a little bit later in that day was three-teamer between Milwaukee, the Wizards involved again. The Wizards dealt basically everyone, it felt like. And then the Knicks got thrown into this one. The big headliners in this trade: the Bucks received Kyle Kuzma. The Wizards received Chris Middleton. A bunch of middling age guys kind of getting thrown around here and there off of that. But those are the two headliners in this trade. What do you think about this move?
Yeah, this did nothing for me. I gave both teams a C, but I really, if I could give it just a wash, to me it really didn't do anything. It's like, okay, you get. I mean, Kuzma feels like he's always hurt these days. He like doesn't play every game. Middleton is just he's got that nagging injury, so he doesn't play. I mean, I I think Kuzma. Let me look real fast. I want to say Kuzma's a little younger than Middleton.
He is.
Yeah, so Kuzma's 29. Middleton must be like 33 or 34. So sure, they got a little younger. Kuzma's still going to be probably the third guy, behind Lillard and Giannis. He's not like, you know, the best he ever was when he was a role player on the Lakers when they won a championship. And I don't know, he hasn't really done much for me recently. It was kind of a lateral move, so I give it a wash. I don't know, it's a nothing trade. And Middleton going to the Wizards. I mean, that Wizards team is bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how I viewed it too. Not too much. It felt like teams are just kind of trading away their problems, hoping that the other one will just kind of fit in, just change it up a little bit. Can Kuzma come in there and bring hustle and all that stuff? Yeah, he could. And um, I think the Bucks probably slightly did better in this trade, just from the aspect of we've seen Kyle Kuzma when he's healthy, and I get it was a few years ago now, but like he's going to bring in something. Chris Middleton just struggled to stay healthy. It feels like for the last 3 years, he wasn't doing anything. So I just feel like there
Yeah,
might.
if Kuzma can stay healthy, then it's a win for Milwaukee just because they're at least getting a player that can stay on the court. Middleton
Yeah,
just isn't even playing, like you said.
you just couldn't even play. At least Kuzma, he can give you minutes, and he's an NBA player. I'm not saying he's an all star or anything like that, but he can give you good minutes, and he can give you good defense and hustle and all that stuff. And it's not going to be like, oh my god, let's hold our breath. Like he's a good player, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be since the Lakers, he's been Washington where everything has been bad. So maybe that will help out the fact that he goes back to a winning organization here. We're going to jump to our fifth trade that we're about to jump into, and I'm making sure I have all my information right on this one, and I do. Um, we got New Orleans Pelicans involved. Not a big surprise there. They're sending Brandon Ingram off to Toronto, and I mean, first rounder, second rounder, Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown, not much coming back. We'll go back to 5, 6 years ago now, whatever it was, when Anthony Davis got traded from the Lakers to the Pelicans. That was the last remaining piece. That trade will go down as just a horrific deal for the Pelicans, as almost nothing came out of it for them. Brandon Ingram was the last remaining piece that was a Pelican, and he is no longer. He is now a Toronto Raptor. How do you feel about this?
I mean, I'm happy for him that he got out of New Orleans. I mean, they're the worst team in the West. The Raptors aren't really doing much better. I think they're like third to last in the East. But maybe the Raptors are just stockpiling it in the hopes that when all those guys are healthy next year, they can maybe give it a run. I mean, you have Quickly, who's a really, really solid point guard when he's healthy. And when healthy seems to be is going to be the key phrase when I talk about this team.
Yeah.
RJ Barrett, he's normally healthy. I guess he got a concussion the other day, so he's just going to be out a couple games, I think. Ingram seems to struggle with his health. Scotty Barnes we've seen go down with injuries. Jakob Poeltl seems to be always hurt, but if these five guys can stay healthy, I mean, it's basically we'll say three wings, a center, and then a point guard. So, and they're all really good defensively. Barrett's a good defender. Ingram's a good defender. Barnes is a good defender. They can all handle the ball. Yeah, I mean, the Toronto Raptors definitely got better. Will they be able to contend in the East? The jury's still out on that. But at least they, are throwing darts at the dartboard and it's hitting. Are they going to hit the bullseye? doubtful, but we'll see. I really do like Scotty Barnes. He's really good, and RJ Barrett being Canadian, him going from New York back to Toronto really helped his confidence, and his game has gotten a lot better. So yeah, I thought it was it's a good trade for the Raptors. Pelicans to me didn't. Okay, they got a couple picks, that's helpful, but like it's not like Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown are really gonna change the tide, especially in that really crappy New Orleans team. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this for me at least says the sign of, New Orleans is hitting the restart button. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we didn't hear much about it, which was surprising, but Zion's name was never mentioned really in the last few weeks. I bet you anything they try to trade him this off season, that's been just a disaster. For Toronto, it's a good gamble. You get Brandon Ingram. We know he can be an all star when he's on his A game. And they already have a pretty good young core building in Toronto, and it's just another piece to add to that young core. Um, I don't see any risk in them doing that deal, but New Orleans, I feel like we're going to see more trades this offseason, and the main guy we're probably going to see dealt eventually is Zion, and they're probably going to have to take pennies on the dollar for him, unfortunately, seeing how badly that's gone. Um, Another massive move as we go to trade number 6 that we're going to discuss. This was probably the last big move, in my opinion, that we saw during the trade deadline. Unless I'm forgetting something, I think this was. Oh, we got another one. So this is one of the last two massive deals. Warriors acquiring Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler wanted out of Miami, hasn't played in a while. Andrew Wiggins, PJ Tucker going to the Heat, protected first round pick. Dennis Schroeder's part of this deal, but he got dealt 4 times, so I don't even know where he's at anymore right now. Somehow the Pistons picked up some guys as well, but we'll throw that to a side. Um, the big one, Jimmy Butler out of Miami, now in Golden State. How is that going to work out, and who won this deal?
personally, I think the Pistons won this deal. They got Lindy Waters and Josh Richardson, who were just a couple good rotation players for a young team that's up and coming. Um, the Heat, I guess I'll say they got better because they suspended Jimmy, so it's not like he was playing. So
Yep.
now at least they got Andrew Wiggins to, I don't want to say fill his role, but they got a player who can actually play rather than someone they're just
Yeah.
suspending and sitting on the. Well, I don't even know if he was sitting. He probably wasn't even going to the games. Um, Kyle Anderson doesn't really do much for me. He's okay. Butler to the Warriors. I think the Warriors also. I mean, I guess technically, if you go by who won the trade, all these teams got a little better. Like the Warriors are better because they have Jimmy Butler
Yep.
to pair with Steph and Draymond. I want to know who. I want to know when the first fight happens in practice between Jimmy and Draymond when they start going at it when haymakers are thrown. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think this puts Golden State in like a title contention by any means. Um, yeah, I think it was more of Pat Riley just basically like I need to get rid of this headache. I need Jimmy out of Miami. He stuck it to the Suns by not giving him to the Suns where Jimmy really wanted to go. He goes to Golden State, signs an extension immediately. Um, but yeah, I don't think. I mean, none of these teams I think got so much better to where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, they can go do well in the playoffs. I mean, maybe the Warriors bump themselves up into a better play-in contention team, or maybe like the 8 or 7 seed at best. But I don't think they'll go anywhere. Um, yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, we have pretty much the exact same thought on this one. It's a trade that we knew was probably going to happen. If Jimmy Butler didn't play, the Heat were probably going to. Or if Jimmy Butler didn't get traded, Miami was probably going to suspend him for the season. So it's better just to get rid of him and just get what you can get out of it. I think they did fine. Wiggins is fine. Getting a first pick is fine. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but at the exact same time, I'm looking at it and like, will the Warriors probably still in the plan? Yeah, it's exactly what you said. If they win a first round, matchup, I think that would be surprising depending on who they face up against. But I'm not expecting much out of the trade outside of Cool. It's a shuffle up. He needed my out of Miami, and yeah, so be it. Um,
I
next
mean, if
trade,
Jimmy can go into that mode we've seen him get into,
yeah,
maybe. But the guy's like pushing 35. I think he is 35.
he's 35.
I mean, maybe if he's bought in and he's like, I'm going to give
Yes,
it my last effort, who knows? Maybe, but I don't see that happening.
I just don't see that. It's an old team, and it just takes one Steph injury. Even not even a big injury. And that team is done. Um, all right, last real big trade. This one came through yesterday, I believe. I believe it was last night. Lakers getting their big man, which they really needed. Mark Williams from Charlotte. They send over Dalton Kincaid. Um, Kincaid Connect. Jesus.
Connect.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, I don't know what I was saying. Cam Reddish, unprotected pick, and 31, and a 30 pick swap. How do you feel about this one? I feel like, for me, both teams actually won this deal.
Yeah, I consider this a win-win. I'd give the Hornets maybe a little edge on it just because they got a couple picks. And Dalton Connect, I mean, was he a lottery? He might have just been outside the lottery,
He's
but
just outside.
he's a
Just
good
outside.
player. He'll fit into their rotation. I mean, he could probably be their starting shooting guard moving forward. And then I know Brandon Ingram's out for the year, but Ingram can slot into the small forward. I mean, they have some decent young pieces to build around with LaMelo. Um, and then the Lakers got a big man, which is exactly what they needed. Now, whether Mark Williams can stay healthy, that's the next question. I mean, the guy, when he plays, is a monster. I actually saw, I think I told you this, but I saw on Twitter, he has a longer standing reach than Wembenyama, so which is crazy because he's like, 7 foot, 7'1", and Wemby's 7'6".
Yeah.
Um, so, if Mark Williams can stay healthy, this 100% helps the Lakers. And you have to assume he can. The Lakers training staff better be really ready to work on him at all times. So yeah, I think win-win. I
Yeah.
like it.
Win-win. I think the biggest scare of this one is two things. Mark Williams has had a hard time staying healthy throughout his NBA career. He's only played 80 some games in 2.5 years, so a little worrisome there. And then on top of it, since his Duke days, he really hasn't played a meaningful game in the NBA. He's going to get kind of thrown straight to the fire, and he's going to be told, "Yeah, you're the big man now on the most watched team in the NBA, and if you guys don't win a championship, it's on you." So a lot of pressure coming in right off of the gates right there. We'll see how he does. And yeah, Lakers gave up some young pieces. I don't think the Lakers care about a 31 pick at this point. But I feel like even for the Hornets, they need young pieces. They need a lot of pieces moving forward. So overall, I think that was a win-win. Now we're kind of on to today's trades. A lot of minor trades. We'll start with the Suns sending Jurkic over to those Hornets. They also sent a first-round pick. I think that was their last first-round pick. They've given rid of all their picks, it feels like. Suns in return get a second-rounder, get Cody Martin. What do you think about this as a Suns fan?
It's fine. I mean, they got, again, Nurkic was kind of the Suns' Jimmy Butler headache. He was sitting the bench. There was news that came out that him and Budenholzer didn't have a relationship and didn't talk at all. So that's good. That's something you like to hear as a fan. And out of who you thought was going to be your starting center and your head coach, but they at least got to move him out. They had to attach a first round pick, which kind of sucks. You never like attaching that to a player like Nurkic who's not even playing, but you kind of have to do that for a team to be somewhat enticed to take him on. As for what the Suns got, Cody Martin, solid role player. He probably will play, I would think. And then they got Misic, who's another point guard who I don't think he'll see the floor really this year. Whether the Suns re-sign Tyus Jones or even Monty Morris going into next year, maybe Misic will see some time, or he'll just be an expiring contracted deal later on, or just eventually re-sign somewhere else. But I think the biggest thing of this trade was just the Suns getting that that cancer, I guess I'll say, of Nurkic and him not really providing anything out. So neither team to me like really won this. I guess the Hornets sort of won it because they really didn't even have a center after dealing Nick Richards to the Suns earlier,
Yeah.
and then Mark Williams to the Lakers. So Nurkic at least gets to go and be the starting center for a really bad team and probably pad his stats.
Yeah. I think you kind of said it all. I don't have much to add there. So, yeah, I pretty much second what everything you said on that one. Not much to add. The last two trades we're going to kind of discuss here both came pretty much right at the trade buzzer. First one, the Cavs getting DeAndre Hunter, the Hawks getting kind of a lot of draft picks, 3 seconds, two pick swaps, Chris LeVert, Yang. So it'll be. What do you think about this one? Hunter's having a very good year. Quietly, I didn't realize it until he actually got traded. I was like, "Whoa, this guy's having a nice year for Atlanta." So Cavs and their potential title run here, they're saying, "Let's go get another offensive piece. Pretty good on the defensive side of the floor as well." Everyone they traded really wasn't too big of a piece going forward. So, what do you think about this one for the Cavs?
Yeah, I love this for the Cavs. Hunter's a really good get. He gets them younger at the small forward position. Levert's kind of getting up there in age, and hasn't really been providing much this year. So for a team like the Cavs who are just gunning for that championship, Hunter is going to slot right in at small forward, probably defend their best, the best wing player on whatever team they're playing, and he can also score too. I think he's putting up close to 20, 19 or 20 a game. So with Isaac Okoro being out, I think Hunter just kind of fills that small forward role that they had kind of been throwing darts at. Like I said, Levert had been playing there. I think Max Strus has been playing there, but he's coming off a pretty big injury, so he's not quite fully healthy. And he seems like a guy that could thrive coming off the bench. So I thought that was an A plus for the Cavs to go out and get Hunter. As for the Hawks, they're kind of in a weird situation. They're not a bad team, but they're getting close to. It's like, do we keep Trae Young or do we trade him and have to like kind of restart again because they're not really contending in the East. Yep. So they got a couple veteran players and, as you mentioned, multiple picks. So not awful, but is what it is.
Yeah, and then actually moments right after that trade happened, the Hawks then traded with the Clippers, and the Hawks gained a whole many more draft picks, picking up 3 second-round picks, and then just 3 more second-round picks. Terrence Mann, Bones, and then they dealt away Wardon, who I like, 3-point shooter. What do you think about that?
He was drafted by the Suns.
Yeah, that happened right at the buzzer too. I like that one for both teams, honestly.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good trade for both teams. I've always liked Bogdan. I was really excited when the Suns drafted him, but then we sent him. I don't even know where he went. The Kings? I guess he was with the Kings.
He's been everywhere.
Yeah, I think Bogdan is a good pickup. He's a solid player. We saw him in the Olympics. He was on wherever Jokic is from, Serbia. Was he on Serbia's team?
Yep.
No, he's a good player. Just another good rotation guy. Whether he starts or comes off the bench, I don't think it really matters to him. But he can score, and like you mentioned, he can shoot the three. So just another good player for the Clippers, as they still think that Harden and Kawhi can work. But I don't think that'll be the case. But Bogdan's a good player. So yeah, that was a good trade. And the Hawks get a young point guard in Bones Highland who can play behind Trae Young, and Terrence Mann is just a solid role player. So a small trade, but both good moves for each team.
Yep. Is there any other trades you want to discuss? As I said, there was a bunch. A lot of this stuff I feel like we haven't discussed, a lot of minor stuff, but is there anything that we should give note to?
I think we kind of hit it all. I mean, you even mentioned the two things I thought were funny were Dennis Schroeder got dealt like 4 times in a week. PJ Tucker got dealt 3 times in 5 days. So two guys where it's like PJ Tucker's coming to the end of his career. Dennis Schroeder's still solid, but he did make a couple interesting remarks about what he thought of the trade deadline, and then just got shipped a bunch of times. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think we kind of hit. I think we hit all the big trades.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's going to be interesting now is going to be the buyout market. I mean, the rumor right at the trade deadline, which I don't know if anyone cares. Who knows? Ben Simmons looks like he's going to get bought out, but I don't know if it matters anymore with him anymore. But who knows? We've seen weirder things happen, I guess. Um, there's a few other guys that we've heard buyout probably is a possibility, but All-Star game is just a couple week and a half away now, and I guess it'll be interesting to see how some of these teams look rebranded. I guess, and me personally, I believe the Lakers won this trade deadline. Out of all the teams, I think it's pretty hard to argue anyone doing better than them.
No, the Lakers for sure came out of this as winners. I don't even think it's you can't debate anyone else.
Yeah. All right. Well, any final thoughts before you log off, James?
No, I think we kind of hit it all. I know I had mentioned this on the last pod, but this now is our final podcast before, well, obviously before the Super Bowl, but we're taking a hiatus and we will come back post Super Bowl, probably close to March Madness, but taking a little break.
Yep.
So enjoy watching the Super Bowl, enjoy watching sports in general, and yeah, we have some big things in the works.
Yeah. And if you're in Arizona, enjoy the great weather. All right, guys. Until next time, thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk to you guys soon.